Hello and welcome to the IoT course by Think IoT Solutions. So in the previous session, we have seen how to configure the Amazon AWS instance, and we have shown the process on how to select the operating systems and how to select the memory that is available in the free tier. And I hope you all have completed the Amazon EC2 instance, and you are able to log in into that particular instance. So in today's session, we are going to learn the Linux commands, and these commands will be helpful for you to navigate in the Linux operating system. That is, you can create files and folders, and you will be able to move from one file to another folder. And you will also be able to create new files, either C files or Python files or any text files that you want to create. So that is the topic of this particular session. So let's move ahead and look at what are the basic Linux commands first, and then we will open a putty session to our AWS, and then we will try those commands practically. So initially I'll just briefly explain about the commands in the presentation, and then we will start the practical session. So these are the basic commands. So any operating system that is there, we need to be able to move from one particular directory to another directory, and we'll also be able to create some files that we want. So if you are in a particular directory and if you want to see what files are there in that directory, then the command you need to use is ls. So ls is a command which when used will display all the files and folders that are present in that particular directory. If there are any hidden files and if you want to see some more details about the files and the directories that are present, you can type ls space hyphen a. That is a second command. So these two commands are very useful in order to see what files and folders are there in your directory, and you should keep them handy all the time. And the next command is the IP address. So if you want to just see the IP address, the connectivity of your Amazon AWS EC2 instance or even a Raspberry Pi, then the command that you have to remember is the ifconfig. So when you type ifconfig, it will list out the IP addresses that it is connected to. And let's say if there are multiple users that are connected onto a single AWS Amazon EC2 instance, then you can see which user you are, and you can type a command called who am I. So when you type who am I, it will display the current user, that is the user that you are. It is going to display your name. And if you want to see who all users are there on that particular Amazon EC2 instance at that current point of time, then you can just type the command called users. So all these commands are going to give you some information about the files that are present and the IP addresses that are present and who the users are. So once we have seen these basic commands, now let us move ahead to the next slide wherein we will see more commands. And once I have just explained about these commands, we will try out these commands in the Amazon AWS EC2 instance. So the next slide discusses about the Linux directories. So if you can see here, if you want to list all a particular directory name, you just type ls and you have to type the name of that particular directory. If you want to create a directory, then you have to type a command called mkdir, that is a make directory, space the directory name. So basically the directory in Linux is like a folder in a Windows. So we have a Windows operating system which you might be using in your PCs, and the Windows operating system is like a graphical user interface wherein you can just see all the files and folders in the form of graphics. That is, you can see the folders in terms of the yellow color icons that you have, and you'll also be able to see all the files that are present in that particular folder. In the same way, the Linux is also classified that way, but because we are accessing the Amazon AWS, so that has got a line user interface. It is not like a graphical user interface. Therefore, learning these commands will help us to navigate from one particular folder or a directory into another directory. So Linux operating system is similar to Windows in the sense that how the files are managed and how the file system is there, but there are some differences between both of them. So let us not discuss about the differences for now, but we will just in this session learn how to navigate in a particular Linux OS if you are having any device with you. So the next command is, if you want to create the parent directories, that is, for example, if you are in a current directory, if you want to create all the parent directories, then you can list out all the parent directories. So you can say mkdir space /temp /amroot /test. So you will be able to create all these directories up to the test directory. If you want to remove a directory, then the command is rmdir space the directory name. If you want to change directories, then the command is cd, that is change directory, as in if you want to move from one directory to the other directory, then you have to use the command cd, and then you have to type the directory name to which you have to move to. So if you are in a current directory name called desktop, if you want to move to another directory name, then you have to just type cd space that particular directory name. If you want to change or change the name of that directory, you have to use a command called mv, and old directory name and the new directory name. And if you want to go to the parent directory, then you have to remember cd space dot dot. So this is a very important command, because if you just want to move one step ahead, that is one step up to a parent directory, you have to just type cd space dot dot. So these are the commands that will help you to work with the directories and move from one directory to the other directory. So just to list out, ls is going to list the directories, mkdir is for creating a new directory, and rmdir is for removing the directory. If you want to move from one directory to other directory, you should use cd space that particular name. If you want to rename the directories, you have to use mv. And if you want to go to a parent directory, that is one level up, you have to remember cd space double dot. Now let us move to the Linux file management. That is, till now we have seen on the directory level. Now this is a file level. So if you want to create a new file, then you have to remember a keyword called as nano. So nano is like similar to a notepad in Windows. It is like a file editor or a text editor. And you can use a keyword called nano, and you have to give a space, and you have to give whatever file name that you have. So nano space file name is going to create a new file with whatever name you are giving here. So that is how we create any file in Linux, and this is the most important command that you have to remember. Even if you want to edit some files that are already present, you have to again use a command called nano and open that file. Only thing that you have to remember is, when you are creating a file or you're opening a file using a nano, you should always do it using a dot extension. That is, you have to give the extension of that file. If it's a C file, you have to give file name .c. If it's a text file, file name .txt. If it's a Python file, file name .py. So this thing you'll have to remember. If you want to display the contents of a particular file, you have to use a keyword called cat, or that is a Linux command called cat, and then you give the file name. If you want to count the words in a file, there is a command for that, which is wc and then file name. If you want to copy the files, that is, if you want to copy the contents of one file into another file, then you have to use cp space the source file and the destination file. If you want to rename, you have to use mv old file, and then you have to give the new file name. And if you want to delete, then you have to use a keyword called as rm, that is for the remove. So these are some of the basic Linux commands that we have. There are many other Linux commands, but which we'll be learning in this session after some time. But for now, what we'll do is we will practice these commands, and we will see how these commands are being used to navigate from one particular folder into another folder, and how we can create new files using these particular commands. So now the time is for logging into our session. So we will open the PuTTY software. So this is the PuTTY software that we have. So as you all know, we have to just enter the IP address of our Amazon AWS, and we have to pass the key file. So the IP address of the Amazon AWS, I've just given here the steps. So this is the practical session now, and I want you all to open your PuTTY sessions, and you key in the IP address of your Amazon AWS, point it out to the key file that you have, and you have to open the session. So as it is given here, the IP address of the session is 18.221.53.5. So you need to enter the IP address of your Amazon AWS EC2 instance. So because my IP address is this one, you enter your IP address. So in this place, you can enter any IP address that your Amazon AWS has. So it's 18.221.53.5. and go to the SSH, and in the auth you have to just browse for the key file. So the key file name that I've saved is this, is the same IP address. So you can just go here and you can click on open. And once that particular file is in, and just check whether the IP address is correct, that is 18.2.21.53.5, and select the connection type as SSH and port to 22. Then you just click on open. So once you click on open, it will ask you for login as. So you can see that it is asking for login as, and here you have to type Ubuntu. So this is a default name user that you have. You can change it also using a Linux command, but for now we will keep it simple and we will try to log in using the Ubuntu. So it is going to authenticate your key, and now we are into the Linux commands. Another important Linux command that you need to remember all the time is clear command. So when you type clear and you hit enter, it clears your screen. So whatever screen that you have, it'll clear all the commands that are there that you have typed earlier. So now let us start with the commands that we have learned just now. So the first command that we will type is ls. So ls is a command that will display all the files and folders in a particular directory. So as I've been using this particular AWS for quite some time now, there will be a bunch of files when I type ls. But in your case, if you have created the AWS just a while ago, then you won't have any files and folders, and it might not display any files. But in this case, it's going to display a lot of files. So as you can see, there are many files here. So ls is going to display all the files and folders in that particular directory. If you want to clear them, then if you want to clear the window, you just type clear and hit enter. So it is going to clear it. So clear is one command, ls is another command, and remember that all Linux commands are in the small letters. There are no capital letters in the Linux commands, all are small case. So now let us move ahead, and the next Linux command that I'm going to type is ls space -a to see whether there are any hidden files. So whatever the hidden files earlier we were not able to see, these files we will be seeing in this particular command, that is ls space -a. The next command that we will look at is to create a directory. Now let us create our own directory and let us enter into that directory. So for creating a directory, we have seen a command called mkdir, that is make directory, mkdir. Okay, so this is a directory, and I want to create a directory by name session1. I just want to name the directory as session1 or name the folder as session1. So I'm using mkdir, that is make directory space session1, and now I'll press enter. Now if I want to see whether that particular directory is created or not, which command I should use? I should use ls, so that it will display all the files and folders in the directory, and I should be able to see a folder by name session1. So when I type ls, you can see that there is this folder called session1. So let us enter into that particular folder by typing cd. So cd space session1. So cd is change directory. So I am changing the directory from whatever the current directory I am. I want to move to the session1 directory. So when I type cd space session1, it is going to enter into the session1 directory. So if you can see here, earlier it was Ubuntu and IP address, and now it is saying /session1. So now we are inside the session1 directory. So now let us go ahead and let us type ls. So because I created this directory just now, there won't be any folders in it. So when I type ls, it is going to return an empty thing. So it's not going to return me anything because we have not created anything in this particular folder. So you need to always see in which path you are in. So now you are in the home /session1. So now let us try to see how all other Linux commands are working. So whatever commands we have discussed, so if I just go to those commands, so we have seen some commands like ls, we have seen mkdir, we have seen cd, how to move from one directory to other directory, And then we have seen some commands here like ls space hyphen e ifconfig. So we have seen all that. And now what we will do is, before going to the Linux file management, let us see all these commands, that is how to remove a directory. Okay, so what we will do is we will just create a new directory here. So I'm again going to use mkdir, and I'm going to name the directory name as testdir. So that is what is the directory that I'll create. Now when I press enter, it is going to create the directory, and when you type ls, you should be able to see that directory. So if you see, still we are in the session 1 directory, and earlier when you typed ls, you did not see this test dir. Why? Because it was still not created. But now I've used this command called mkdir, and now I'm able to see this particular directory, that is a test dir. And another interesting point in the Linux is whenever you press the upward arrow, so on your keyboard there is an upward arrow. So whenever you press the upward arrow, you will see all the previous commands that you have used. That way it becomes easier for you to take a command that you have already used, and you will be able to directly execute that command. So just whenever you have this, you press the upward arrow to see all those commands. So that is a very important tip that you can get in order to operate a Linux system. Now you have created a command called testdir. Now I want to delete that directory. Now I created it using mkdir. I want to delete it. So the command for deleting is rmdir. So this is a command to delete a particular directory. So rmdir space the directory name. So I'm typing this directory name testdir. So when I press enter, now when I type ls, I shouldn't see that directory. So as you can see, there are no directories in this particular folder. So rmdir has deleted that particular test directory. So these were some of the commands related to the directories. Now if you want to go to the parent directory, I told you that there's a command called cd space dot dot. So if you want to go to a parent directory, then this is a command that you have to use. So typing cd space dot dot, you will be entering into the parent directory. So when I type cd space dot dot, you will see that this particular link, whatever you are seeing here, that is ubuntu@ip and then session 1. So this session 1 will go out because now you are going into the parent directory. So I'll just hit enter. So you can see that now we are in a parent directory, that is one level up. Earlier we were in the session 1 folder. Now we are in a folder that is one level above this session 1. So now when I type ls, I should see the session 1 directory here. So which is this. And another important thing that I want to tell you here is the directories that are there, they will be seen in this blue color text, and the files will be seen in the white color text. And the Python files are given a different color. So basically it's already like inbuilt like that. You can also change that, but for now let us continue with our Linux commands. So now I'll again enter into my directory, and now we will see how to create a file in that directory, which is very important. So how do we move from one directory to other directory? We will use a command called cd. So I'm using a command called cd, and I'm typing the session 1. So cd space session 1 and then enter. So now I am in the session 1 directory. I'll use a clear command to clear all my window. And now what we'll be doing is, now we will try to open a particular file. So initially we'll start with a text file, and the same process can be continued for any file that you're opening on a Linux system. And this can be done in any Linux terminal that you have, that is any operating system which is a Linux based operating system. You can use the same method in any OS. So the command which is very important is nano. So nano is a file editor in the Linux system, and you use the command called nano, and then you use the file name. So I can use any file name, but if there is a file that is specific, like if it's a C file, then you have to just specify the .c extension. If it's a Python file, you have to specify the .py extension. So depending on the extension of the file, you have to create that file using nano. So use nano, and then you have to type the file name. So initially I'll type test.txt. So the file name I'll use is test1. So the file name is test1 and it's a text file. So I've used a .txt extension. So just type this nano space test1.txt and press enter. So once you press enter, you can see that now you are into the nano editor. So it is showing GNU space nano space 2.9.3. So now it is showing you that you are in a test1.txt file, and now you can enter text in this file. So this is a very important thing. So for now I'm just entering some text, which is hello world, and now we will see how to save the file and how to exit from this particular editor that we have just opened up. So I've just typed hello world, and you can see there are some options here at the bottom of this particular screen. So the option for writing is given here as O, that is Control O. So when you press Control O, basically you are writing into the file. So what you have done here till now is you have just typed a few things, that is hello world. You have typed a sentence there, but you haven't written the file yet. To write the file, you have to press Control O. So on your keyboard, press Control and then press the O, that is Control O. So once you press Control O, you can see that here it is asking you whether the file name to write is this file or not, test1.txt. So it's just confirming, it's taking a confirmation from you whether this is a file name to write or not. So because this is the same file that we have created, so for us, yes, we have to write it into that. So if you are confirming that, then you have to press enter. So once you press enter, only then the text hello world will be written into the file. So now I am clicking on the enter. So now when I press enter, you can see that here it is saying wrote one line, and this particular line is now written in the file test1.txt. So this process you have to follow. Now once you have written a particular text, if you want to go back to the directory, that is you want to move away from this edit mode and you want to go back to your directory, you have to press exit. So pressing in the sense you have to press Control and you have to press X. That is why this is given. So press Control X. Once you press Control X, you are outside into your directory. Now let's say if you press ls, now what you should see a file name by test1.txt in this particular directory. So let us see whether it has worked. So I'll type ls and you can see that there is a file by name test1.txt, right? So let us repeat this process again and we will create a new file so that it will be because this is like a very important step and you'll do this a lot of times. So we just want to be perfect in this particular thing that you're doing. So again I'll use nano and I'll use test2.txt. I'm creating a new file. So nano space test2.txt, press enter. You will enter into a mode where you can enter the text. So again I'll just say hello world 2, so that there's just a different content in the file. And once I've written the content, what I have to do is I have to press Control O. So I press Control O, then it asks me whether this is a file name to write or not. So it asks for a confirmation, press enter, and to exit you have to just press Control X. So these are the 3 sessions that you have to do in order to come back out into the environment. So the first step is nano space the file name. So we can just create another file, nano space test3.txt. I'll write some text, then I'll press Control O, enter, and Control X. So now whenever I type ls, because I created 3 files, so I created test1, I created test2, I created test3. Now when I type ls, you will see that there are 3 files in this directory, test1.txt, test2.txt, and test3.txt. So these are the 3 files that I've created. Now to see further more commands, if you want to see what is there in the text file or what is there in any of the files that you have created, you have to use a keyword called cat. So use cat space test1.txt. So when you type this, when you hit enter, it is going to show what is the contents of the file. So the contents of the file is hello world. So if you want to see the contents of test3 file, test3.txt, then it is hello. So whatever we have written in these files, all that particular data is going to be shown here. Now if you want to edit any of these files, so I'll just hit clear and I'll type ls again to see all these files. So now there are 3 files in this directory. Now let us say if I want to edit one of the file, so what I should do? I should again use nano. So nano space, but now I'll be, whichever file I want to edit, I have to type that name. So if I want to edit the test3.txt, then I have to type test3.txt here. So whichever file I want to edit, I will be typing that name. And when I hit enter, it is going to open that particular file. Now if I want to add any content, so I just added some content here. Now again the process is Control O, enter, and Control X. Now if you want to see the contents of the file, you can use cat space test3.txt. Cat will give you what is the content of that file. So yeah, so the content is now updated. Now it is saying hello, this line is new because just now you have updated that. So this is a very important step and everyone should practice it for 2 to 3 times so that you get to know how to use this keyword nano, and then press Ctrl O and enter to confirm, and then to exit you have to press Ctrl X. So these are the steps that you need to follow to create any random file that you have. So now let us move ahead and let us see a few other commands that I've shown. So for example, we have seen these commands here, right? So we have seen cat, we have seen nano. If you want to see, or if you want to count the words in a file, then you have to use a command called wc. So let's count the words in this particular file. So I'll use wc space test3.txt. So I'll hit enter. So now it is showing three numbers here. So the first number is the number of lines in that file, that is there is one line. The 7 is the number of words, and 31 is the total number of characters that are there in that file. So wc is going to give you the number of lines, the number of words, and the number of characters in that particular file. So sometimes it can be handy to just sort of take a look at like how many lines are there in that particular file. You can just use wc. So now going back to the presentation, so there were some other commands like copying, moving, deleting. So let us try all these. So let us use a copy command, that is cp. So if you want to copy the contents of one file into another file, then you use cp space test3.txt. I am using this file now, and this is my old file, so I want to copy the contents of this file into another file. So I'll use the other file as test4.txt. So now what happens is the contents from the test3.txt are copied into test4.txt. So when you hit enter and when you type ls, you can see that there is a fourth file here by name test4.txt. And if you try to open that file, or instead of opening, I'll just use cat and I'll say test4.txt, then the contents of that file will be displayed, and these contents are same as that of the test3.txt because you have copied that file. So this is how to copy the contents of one file into another file. Now if you want to so let's go back here and renaming a file. So let us use mv to rename a particular file. So what I'll do is I'll type mv space test4.txt. I want to rename it to test5.txt. So now what I'm doing is I'm changing the name of the file test4.txt and renaming it as another file name, that is test5.txt. Now when you press ls after this operation, it is going to list the files that are in this directory, and you can see there is no file by name test4.txt because that file has been renamed to test5. So that is the mv command. Now let us delete this file by using an rm command. So rm space test5.txt. So now because I'm using rm, it is going to delete this file from this directory. So when I hit enter and when I type ls, you can see that this test5.txt is deleted from this particular directory, and there are only these three files that are present. So this was the these were all the files or all the commands that we wanted to test on our Linux system. So now let me hit clear. So the important commands to remember are cd, that is change directory. So that is moving from one directory to other directory. Cd space dot dot is going to take me to the one directory above, that is a parent directory. Now let us do one more thing. Let us create another directory in this directory. So I'll create mkdir space session 1_1. So let me create like this. Okay. so that we will know that there is a new directory now. So when I hit enter and I type ls, so now you can see that there is a new directory by name session1_1. So if you want to enter into that, you type cd and then session1_1. So now you are inside that directory. So you see that when you're inside that directory, this particular path grows here. So earlier it was still session1, now it is inside the session1_1. Now if you want to go back to the parent directory, type cd space dot dot. Now you are back into the session1 directory. So looking at this particular path, you should be able to see in which directory you are in. And based on that, you will be able to locate yourself in the Linux file management system. So now let us see how to create a C file. So I'll just create a basic C file here in this directory. So the method is same again. So I'll be using a keyword called nano or the file editor, and I'll be using a command that is first.c. So that this is a file name that I'm using. So first.c is the file name. And I'll just write only one line so that so I'm just including the basic header file, that is stdio.h, and then I'll just say void main, and then I'll just write a very basic printf statement. So printf, and then inside that also I'll just write hello world as is the first program. So I'll just end it with a semicolon. Now the process is same. So I have to press Ctrl O, then I have to hit enter, and then I have to press Ctrl X to come back into my directory. Now when you type ls, you will be seeing the first.c. This is a .c file. There is another directory called session1_1, and then these are the text files that we created. Now if I want to see the code that is present in first.c, I just use cat and I say first.c. So you can see that all the contents of that file are displayed here. So this was a practical session on some of the basic Linux commands that we have seen. So I want you all guys to practice this so that these commands are at your fingertips, and this can be very useful when you are writing the programs. Now let us move ahead in the presentation. And so this was a practical session that we finished. And now let us move to the next slide, and which is very important. This is a Linux file permissions.